It's time for another Dice Tower review with Tim Jennette.
Hey everyone, this is Tim Jennette, the Metal Meeple, and in this video we're taking a look at a small game called Joraku by designer Iori Tsukanami. This is the Tasty Minstrel Games version published in 2017. This was originally published in 2015 in a much larger box. This is very small and compact. Look at that. About the size of my hand here. It's for 3 to 4 players, takes about an hour, and it's got trick-taking combined with area control. As you play your trick-taking cards, you're going to put samurai out on the map of this small little map of Japan, basically, and you're going to move from the east to the west because in the beginning of the game, the east is going to score the most points, but there's like 7 zones, but you're trying to journey to Kyoto, which is on the far west, and as you journey across, you're going to score more points later in the game for getting there. So let me show you how the game plays and we'll come back and I'll tell you my thoughts. So Joraku comes in a small compact box here, and each of these boards are separate. They're pretty much the same size as the box, and you're going to build them like so. And that's pretty much what you're going to do, and then you're ready to begin the game once you deal out some cards. But the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take this small deck of cards and you're going to give one to each player, and that's going to signify which zone their daimyo token starts in. Each player has a daimyo token, and they have a bunch of samurai tokens that they're going to use to take over to these different areas for scoring at the end of each of these phases. So, for instance, if we flip out a 3 for red, a 5 for yellow, a 6 for blue, and a 1 for green. That would be the starting field for all the players, and the person in the highest spot, this case blue, is going to receive this starting player's card, and it's also the card that's going to be given out to each player as they win skirmishes. It's called the Kachidoki card. I'm not really sure. I don't speak Japanese, but this is going to be whoever wins a skirmish is going to get this. So what you're going to do next is each player is going to receive 5 cards from this deck, or at least in a 4-player game. In a 3-player game, you're going to receive 6 of these cards. They're simply numbered 1 through 6, or they can be a ninja, and there are 3 colors, red, blue, and yellow. So you're going to give out, like I said, 5 of these to each player. After each player receives their hand of cards, you're going to look at them, you're going to choose 2 of these cards to put face down on the table and pass to your left. You know, obviously you're going to receive 2 from the player on your right. Then you're ready to begin the round. So, blue player is going to start because they started highest up on this board. And before we go any further, I just want to let you know, down here is where the victory points are going to be scored for the first phase, second phase, and third phase of the game. And you can see, if you look closely, the points start up here and they go down to 0 on this side, but they start at 0 and go up to 15 on this side. So the idea is, in each phase of the game, you're trying to move west. So the very first phase, these couple will score the greatest, and in the middle, and then the third phase of the game, Kyoto is going to score the most, followed with these other 2 zones over here. This is simply a score track that snakes. You would put one of your tokens over there to signify what your points are. That's 0. You can see it snakes like that. Blue is going to start the trick, basically. Since this is a trick-taking game, they're going to choose one of the cards in their hand to lead the trick. Now, ninjas will come back to. Otherwise, you're just going to play a number, and let's say you played 6. 6 is going to allow you to do, the numbers 1 through 6 will allow you to do one of 2 things. And it comes with a skirmish card resolution here. Each player gets one of these as reference. So if you play a ninja, you can do this stuff. Or if you play a 1 through 6, which is most common, you're going to do one of these 2 things before the next player plays a card. You can either choose the A option, which is take up to 3 samurai and place them in the zone that matches the number of your card. And so 1 through 6, you can never place in Kyoto since it's not a zone number. So say I want to put 3 more samurai over there to ensure control. That would be what I would do. If I already had guys out, I can instead choose the B option, which would be to gain action points equal to the card, so in this case 6, and I can use those action points on this grid down here. So 2 AP can move your daimyo token 1 adjacent space, or if you're in a space that had other samurai and your daimyo token, you can spend 1 point to kill off enemy units but only where your daimyo token is. So I can spend 3 action points basically to remove these. Lastly, you can spend 1 action point for each space you want to move a samurai. So in this case, if I moved all this over here, this would be 2, 3, 4, 5. I would still have 1 action point left. Either way, we're going to spend this 6 to put 3 guys out. Now the next player is going to look at their hand, and they're going to have to follow suit, so they have to play a blue card. Now let's just say this is what they had. Good thing though, because they have a ninja. So we're going to play the ninja next for the second player. Now the ninja only has 1 option once you play it, and that is simply to put up to 3 samurai anywhere on the board, and they can be in different zones. So that's really good. Let's say that was the yellow player, for instance. So yellow can take these 3 and say they just want to be like, I'll put 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. They don't have to all be in the same spot. Now the third player is going to go, and again they have to follow suit, but let's just say they did not have this blue card, and this is what their hand looked like. So they have to select a card. In case they don't have a blue card, they can follow with whatever color they want. So let's just say they played this 5. Now the reason this would matter is because the end of the round, once all 4 players or all the players have played a card, it's whoever has the highest card. So in this case, let's say the first player had played a 5 blue and this player had a 6 yellow, and they played that 6 yellow, they could have won the skirmish, except that we have a ninja out. So we'll come back to that anyway. So this player is going to play a 5 yellow and put 3 of their characters on 5. And then lastly, let's just say this character is going to go, or this player, and they're going to choose, they don't have a blue to go with, they're going to play a 6, red, and they're going to put their 3 characters in 6. At that point, you determine who's going to win the trick, and it's whoever played the highest card, no matter what the color is. The leading suit was only for what cards are restricted for the play that round. So in this case, this player would win because it's the last player that played the highest card. Since first player started us with a 6 and the last player ended us with a 6, they would win. Except that there's a ninja that was played. Whenever a ninja is played, it will only win the trick, and it's a trump, but it'll only win if a 6 has been played as well, and then it'll trump it. So if this ninja was out and both these 6s were 5s, this player would not win, and it would be this player back here that would actually have won the trick. Either way, whoever wins the trick is going to be given this card here, or wins the skirmish is what they're calling it. And you're gonna score the zone in which case their daimyo is in. So say that last player was green, is what the last tokens we placed here. Wherever green's daimyo is, which is in slot number or zone 1, they're going to immediately score that zone. So whoever has control will get first place points. So obviously green has control. Daimyo tokens are worth 2 points for control. Samurais are only 1. Since green is the only person there, they would receive the full 3 points for first place. If there was a second place and then a third place, let's just say it looked kind of like this, then green would receive 3 points, red would receive 2, and blue would receive 1. If there's a tie, you score basically the lowest rank. So if green and red, actually this is more of a tie actually. So green and red would tie, they would both receive second place points, which is 2, and then since blue is the third player in that zone, they would receive 1 point. Anyway, you discard these cards, and then every player is going to play another hand, starting with the person who won the last skirmish, which in this case was the green player, and you're going to keep going until all the players have played all their cards. In a 4-player game, that would be 5 skirmishes. Once that is complete, you are done with the first phase of the game. You're going to score every single zone, including Kyoto, based on the track at the top here. So phase 1, this would be 0, 0, 0, and then 2, 0, 0, 3, 2, 0. You can see how they increase in points, all the way up to zone 7, or zone 6, which is 7, 4, 2. So first player is going to get 7 points, second player gets 4 points, third player gets 2 points. All these tokens stay here. You gather up all the skirmish cards and then shuffle them again and deal out 5. Whoever has the skirmish card is going to start again, and then you play phase 2 of the game. And you can see at that point you want to start spending action points to move your guys from east to west. or if people have killed off your samurai and you've gotten them back, you want to play cards to put them on lower ranking zones. That way you score the second rank, and then finally, or second phase of the game, and then at the end you want all your guys pretty much clustered on this side of the board. That's pretty much the game. After 3 phases, whoever has the most points is the winner. Obviously there's some tiebreakers in the book, and it is worth noting that the game does come with some of these variant rule cards. I believe in the book it says to draw 2 and then at random and then play with those 2, but you can see some of these, like when there is a tie for influence in any area, the player with the tied or the players with the tied rank will score the higher rank instead, whereas normally if 2 players are tied for first, you would score second player points. In this case, you would score first player points. This one, it gives you a new action. It allows you to move your daimyo for 1 point instead, and you can read the other ones here. This replaces this skirmish winning card with a new scoring technique. So anyway, that's pretty much the game. Like I said, you try to move from east to west, scoring points at the end of all 3 phases. Whoever has the most points is the winner. And there you have it. That is Joraku. Now, I will say this game was given to me by the publisher for this review, so keep that in mind as we go through my thoughts. I do try to be as unbiased as possible. So we're going to start off with the one thing I do not like about this game at all, and that has to render around the scoreboard. As you look at the scoreboard, you see how it's got the 0, 1, 2, 3. It snakes down 4, 5, 6, 7. It snakes back and forth. It's got one. It's big enough for just one person's square on each box. This is a terrible score track. It's for me, it's just, I don't know, all our group had a hard time snaking it around, maybe because the numbers are very light. I mean, you could barely see those when you're even in real play. Now, what I think could have been done is, just like in Japanese language, you could have started at the top right and went from 0 down, and then the second column, and then go over to the left, which would be very thematic, I think, in Japanese writing style and things like that. Plus, I always think with snakes, snaking tracks, it's much better to go on a long distance and then come back up and go a long distance, or left to right, left to right, left to right. I don't know, this score track doesn't do it for me, but it is not a deal breaker in the slightest. I typically bust out another score track from another game, although that might not always be the easiest thing to do if you're just taking that game with you. So not a huge deal. It's just something to keep in mind. Our group had a very hard time just keeping track of it. So putting that aside though, this game is super awesome. I'm not much of a trick-taking person, so I didn't come into it thinking, yeah, I'm gonna love this game, but honestly, it blew me away. What I like the most about it is the fact that the trick-taking, there's not a huge emphasis on it, and I don't mean that, I mean, the most of the game is trick-taking, but what I mean by that is, in most trick-taking games, you play a card and you play out a suit. You're just like, whatever, I'm just throwing off, right? In this game, it's like you want to, if you're playing out a suit, you might actually have a better card than the lead card, because it doesn't matter what color, it just matters what number. And so I thought that was really interesting to take on it. And the other thing is, the cards actually switch in value throughout the game, because at the beginning of the game, you want the high numbers to put your guys in the zones that matter, but then late game, you want the lower numbers to put your guys in the zones that matter, or you want the high numbers in the late game because you want more action points to move your guys from east to west. So it's got this interesting thing where each phase of the game switches the value of all the cards. You know, you still want to be able to win the tricks, but at the same time, if you don't play some 1s and 2s later on, you're not going to have a lot of guys down there. So I thought that was just a really awesome way to handle it. And I also like that the ninja isn't the end-all be-all trump card. It is really good, and it's a good card to get out there. But again, in order to win the trick, you also have to have a 6 out there as well. So the actual ability of the ninja is really good, but at the same time, you also, you know, it's not the end-all be-all trump card to me. So I really like the trick taking in this, and I like the area control, which, by the way, both of these things aren't usually my forte. You know, area control is all right to me. Trick taking, I like teach you, and not, I guess that's more of a ladder climbing game. But for me, it's a nice mix of the two, and it's not so abrupt on either one, if that makes any sense. So the last thing is the variant cards. Wow, cool. I haven't played it that many times with with the people in each group to really warrant needing to bust those out. Normally, if I'm playing it, I've played it with new people each time. So I played it a bunch, but just not with the same group a whole lot to where those variant cards are needed. we have tried some of them out and they're neat, but I can see it be more of a repeated play with the same people before you start busting those out. But it is neat that they're included in the game. There's 6 of them. The book says you use 2 at a time. You can use 1. You could probably throw all 6 in there if you really wanted to spice things up. So other than that, I mean, the game's really fun. It's quickly making it my favorite games at this moment list. So I'm looking forward to playing it even more, even though I've already reviewed it. I mean, it's such a good game to me. So if you're looking for a small game that has a punch, it has a lot going on in this small little box, definitely take a look at Joraku. I recommend the TMG version just because how small and compact it is. I think Z did a review of the other one, and it seems to be much bigger, although it did have a score track going around it, you know, standard European style around the outside of the board. So that might be kind of neat, but I liked how small this is. You can pretty much throw it in the backpack, and man, it's a lot of game for how small this is. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment below. Email me at timjennette@gmail.com. Follow me on social media at the handle below. Check out my podcast called Meeple Core. And until next time, keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.